You'd think the most expensive house in Hong Kong would be dripping in luxury, but this $446 million mansion is surprisingly modest. Hong Kong has the most expensive real estate market in the world. This mansion may be subtle, but it comes with a prestigious address in Victoria Peak. With views of the city, sea, and lush greenery, the Peak is home to the most expensive streets in the entire world, with mega millionaires and billionaires galore. Here's a tour of the most expensive, modest mansion you've ever seen, and details on the first-class neighborhood driving Hong Kong's real estate market up one mansion at a time. The $446 million mansion for sale in Hong Kong's exclusive Peak neighborhood has the potential to be the most expensive home ever sold in Hong Kong, and maybe even all of Asia. But right now, they're having a little trouble getting the 90s-style mansion off the market, and it's not hard to see why. The house was built in 1991 and went on the market in April 2018, though it was available for rent for a couple of years before that. It's currently owned by the management of Chuang's Consortium International Limited, who purchased it back in 2004 for just 142 million Hong Kong dollars, or only 18 million US dollars. Selling it for over $400 million seems like a pretty insane price increase. To try and understand how this house deserves such a high asking price, let's have a quick tour of the supposedly luxurious interior. The four-bedroom mansion sits on 16,330 square feet of Middle Gap Road, one of the most prestigious gated communities in all of Hong Kong. It's surrounded by dense forests and lush greenery, offering incredible views and lots of privacy, which are two things rich residents love about the Peak. In addition to multiple spacious bedrooms, the home also features 4.5 bathrooms, 2 dining rooms, a comfortable living area, and a kitchen that looks pretty middle class to be in a multi-million-dollar mansion. Thankfully, the home does come with a pretty nice pool, and one of the dining rooms even offers a nice view of the water and backyard. Speaking of views, depending on where you are in the mansion, you can enjoy the stunning sights of the sea, the Hong Kong skyline, or the lush forests surrounding the Peak. The mansion also includes parking for just 2 cars. Whoever decides to buy this home can't be more than a family of 4, based on the limited number of bedrooms and bathrooms, which makes selling this overpriced home even more difficult. Compare this mansion to any LA mansion for half or even a quarter of the price, and it's a wonder anyone would be willing to lay down hundreds of millions of dollars for something so basic. The current known record for a home sale in Hong Kong happens to come from the same exclusive neighborhood, so this modest mansion being sold for multiple millions really isn't as crazy as it sounds. In January 2017, billionaire technology manufacturer Yung Kin Mon bought another fairly simplistic-looking mega mansion on the Peak for $360 million. Like this $400 million mansion, his purchase was fairly dated and needed a lot of renovations to get it up to billionaire standards. These record-breaking prices are what have made Hong Kong the least affordable housing market in the entire world for an incredible 8 years in a row. Hong Kong has officially surpassed New York City as the place with the highest concentration of super wealthy people, and recently the city has seen a 31% increase in the number of ultra-rich residents worth at least $30 million. The Peak just happens to be the best of the best when it comes to expensive homes, though not necessarily the most luxurious homes, and therefore it has the most expensive housing market in the whole city. And that's saying something because living anywhere in Hong Kong is expensive. It seems like there are lots of people in Hong Kong and all over the world who are able to buy this $446 million home, but handing over more than $400 million can be tricky, especially when the house would need lots of work done to please any modern millionaire. So if the home was originally bought for a huge discount and it's still on the market, why is it remaining so expensive in the first place? It's all about location, 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 and the Peak might just be the most exclusive and coveted address in the world. Victoria Peak is also known as Mount Austin, though locals tend to refer it only as the Peak. This uber-expensive hill is home to bankers, wealthy expatriates, businessmen, celebrities, and plenty of Chinese millionaires and billionaires. It's also home to many government officials. It's even rumored that Jack Ma, the Chinese billionaire who founded Alibaba, purchased this $191 million mansion in the neighborhood back in 2015 and added on millions of dollars in modern renovations. The Peak is the highest hill in Hong Kong, and its elevated location offers views of Hong Kong's impressive skyline while also being far enough away from the overcrowded city streets. The rich neighborhood has also earned itself a reputation with tourists who often take the Peak tram to explore the vivid forests and greenery while getting a first-class view of Hong Kong. It's estimated that over 7 million tourists visit the area each year, which has led to the development of 2 shopping centers in the area, the Peak Tower and the Peak Galleria. But actually, living in the Peak is something few people can manage and most people only dream about. In fact, between 1904 and 1930, the Peak was designed as luxury housing for non-Chinese residents residents only. Now, only the wealthy call the Peak home, though their nationality doesn't matter. In the past 10 years, 3 of the Peak streets, Pollock's Path, Barker Road, and Severn Road, have claimed the title of the world's most expensive street. On these streets, and in pretty much all areas of the Peak, the supply of new luxury homes is extremely limited. There's very little space to make new homes while still preserving the natural forests the area is so famous for. So instead, most wealthy would-be residents must buy old houses at extremely high prices. Homes also don't become available that often because they're usually snatched up by millionaires and billionaires excited for a chance to live in this exclusive neighborhood. But when a home is over $400 million, the market gets considerably smaller. There are a few restrictions to living on the Peak, which explains why some of these homes are so modest and why all of them are relatively small despite having such rich occupants. All buildings at Victoria Peak are restricted in height, so most properties are townhouses or low-rise units, many with entertainment facilities such as swimming pools, tennis courts, or gymnasiums to keep their elite owners busy. The environment is green with many walking and hiking trails, and it's illegal to disturb these well-protected areas. As a result, the Peak ends up being a pretty restrictive environment to live in. But with maximum privacy, incredible views, and a convenient yet distanced location from the city, the Peak has managed to remain one of the world's top elite neighborhoods. Of course, that doesn't mean good things for the poorer residents of Hong Kong. The housing market might be expensive for Hong Kong's richest, but it's suffocatingly so for the city's less fortunate citizens. While residents of the Peak enjoy their overpriced luxury, Hong Kong as a whole is in the midst of a housing crisis that forces tens of thousands of people to pay at least $180 a month to live in tiny apartments known as coffin homes. These homes are often cramped, dirty, and sometimes right off the street with very little protection from the elements. The shortage of land that has led the Peak to being such a coveted address is happening all over Hong Kong. About 7.7 million people live on just 77 square kilometers of land, or about 180 square feet of living space per person. This has led to cramped conditions and rising prices for even the tiniest apartments, which make our overpriced Peak mansion look like paradise in comparison. The average rent for a tiny one-bedroom apartment in Hong Kong can range from 12,000 to 20,000 Hong Kong dollars, or 1,500 to 2,500 US dollars per month. The housing crisis is getting so bad because the government of Hong Kong owns all the land and can choose to sell to whoever they want. The government has followed the money when it comes to housing, so land is always sold to the highest bidder, and the other bids are kept secret so people have no idea how much they really overpaid. That means the rich and elite can buy whatever they can afford without land being put aside for affordable housing. With very little land available to buy and develop, it seems like Hong Kong's poorer citizens are left with skyrocketing home prices and no new land to even attempt to buy. The process has been criticized by pretty much the whole world because Hong Kong is allowing developers and the world's elite to snatch up the entire city, leaving nothing left for everyone else. Critics do have some ideas for how the government could better house its citizens, as well as make the land buying process more transparent. Some options they're considering include creating pod homes out of concrete drain pipes, adding additional floors to skyscrapers, and even building artificial islands around the city. In terms of land sales, Hong Kong has been encouraged to start holding public auctions so that all bids are known and land will start selling for more reasonable prices. However, Hong Kong hasn't been extremely motivated to give their methods a makeover, as their current land buying strategy has helped make the government billions of dollars. But the government is going to have to make some changes soon because the market prices are starting to backfire. In the past 8 years, the government has failed to auction off 7 different plots of land because all of the bids were too far below asking price. Plus, with the pandemic raging and protests spanning across the whole city, tourism, retail, and housing sales are all expected to decrease in the next few years. It's hard to say if Hong Kong will finally make changes to make housing more affordable, but the Peak will likely remain just as expensive as it always has, as long as there are still elites willing to buy the coveted land. While this particular $446 million mansion has yet to sell, most homes get snatched up fairly quickly. And with the system still making the rich richer, there's little concern for the people living on the city streets. Public housing currently has a wait time of almost 6 years. So while Hong Kong's richest are complaining about skyrocketing prices for their luxury mansions, Hong Kong's poorest are just straight out of